For more on this trip, let's go to Thanos Dimadis. He's president of the Association of Foreign Correspondents in the United States. He joins us from New York. Welcome to the show, Thanos.
Thank you.
So this year marks the 45th anniversary of Sino-European relations, and some call it the most difficult of times, with deepening disagreements over myriad issues such as cybersecurity, China's internal security issues. How would you rate the strength of those ties now?
Exactly, and as our colleague from Germany said in the video, this is a very complicated and complex situation because, first of all, we have Europe that usually, as we know, it doesn't talk with one voice. There are many voices internally in Europe, and that's the greatest challenge so far for the European counterparts of China, to be able to formulate a strategy under one voice. On the other side, we would say that the presence and the trip of the Chinese foreign minister in Europe is extremely important. And I think both from a symbolism and both from a substantial perspective. Symbolism means that China, we see the foreign minister of China to try to undertake a more engaging and open policy approach. Committing to multilateralism, committing to mutual cooperation and collaboration with the European partners. Of course, there are several issues that are the barriers right now in the relationships between China and Europe. It is the human rights issue, it is the issue of the introduction of the security law in Hong Kong, it is the issue of the mismanagement and the accusation of mismanagement against China in regards to the management of the pandemic. And of course, there is a financial and economic approach, which is the barrier of the European businesses in the Chinese markets. But as we would like to conclude this, interpretation of the visit of the minister in Europe, I would say that there is a very extremely important point. It is the first time that Europe does not refer to China as a systemic rival. It refers to China as the new empire, as a counterpart. And this is an optimistic development if we take into our account that last June we had the EU and the China summit, which ended without a joint statement. So I see some prospect here. We see some movements around, and under all of this is, of course, under the light of the tough stance that the United States is taking against both Europe and China. So I think that until the end of the year, we're going to see very interesting developments with the hope that there will be a deal, an investment transatlantic deal, which is want to be pursued from both China and European Union.
I'm glad you brought up the investment agreement because it's, what 7 years in the making now. Do you see it come to fruition this year? Because trade, as we know, is between both sides huge.
Yeah, I feel that as long as we see this uncertainty in regards to the relationships between the EU and the United States, I have the feeling and the perspective that European Union partners want to push faster an achievement of a deal with China. That is in their interest. But as I said, there is always the challenge because European partners have their own particular interests. Each European country has its own strategy and strategic priorities, geostrategic priorities, financial, economic priorities. So even if the Chinese and the Chinese government wants to push forward an agreement and are ready to make compromises, I'm a little bit not so optimistic in regards to what the European partners are able to achieve in terms of the speed of achieving this agreement and in terms of how unified they can be when they are on the table of negotiations with China.
Thanos, we have just 1 minute or so left. Very quickly, something you mentioned earlier, a theme we heard from State Councillor Wang during this trip was the need for China and the EU to unite against the US and oppose its bullying. What role do you see the EU playing in the current US-China discord?
I think that both the United States and European Union are following a very tough and harsh stance against China. I don't see that EU and United States are differentiating each other in regards to the stance they take against China, but I feel that this is the reason that the Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Foreign Minister of China, is visiting the European Union counterparts, because China sees there is a prospect of, putting aside the disagreements that they have with the United States and focusing on the partnership with the European Union right now. Because if we have on the side of the EU, if we have on the side of the United States, if we have a new presidency of Mr. Trump, it is quite like not so optimistic scenario to see any change in the stance that the United States have been taken against China. So probably Chinese may make a prediction in regards to what is the election result, and they want to invest more in their relationship and building ties with the European counterparts. And I think that's a smart decision, but we will see how it will be deployed in the next months until the end of the year, and of course with the landmark of the American elections right now.
Thanos Dimadis, thank you so much for your time and insight.